there's enough business out there for everybody. I truly believe that, especially in the small business space. But if that passion's not there, if they don't have that special it factor, that's it's extremely hard to describe, then I feel like you're behind the eight ball from the get-go. When you're working with those small companies, the ones that can actually see the value and understand the value of what an experienced coach can bring, then we're able to expedite their path in scaling their company. One of the hardest things for me when I started as a coach is, I can only run as fast as the CEO or the founder wants to.
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Rising tide lifts all boats. If you got a group that's in sync on the same page, wanting to grow and growing together, you guys are going to rise together.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Athan Casiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. His name is David Miller, and he is a serial entrepreneur, certified scaling up coach, and self-proclaimed growth alchemist who helps business leaders unlock both the method and magic of sustainable growth. With a unique blend of strategy, intuition, and hands-on experience, David guides entrepreneurs in scaling their business with purpose, passion, and profitability. And as the founder of PeachCap, a premier investment and finance firm, David built the company from the ground up, scaling it to $10+ million in revenue before he successfully exited 5 years ago. And he later acquired Flow Gardens, a thriving cannabis company, where he played a key role in its expansion and now serves as a board member. And David's philosophy is centered on trust, risk, and the alchemy of scale, a fusion of method and intuition, profit and purpose, logic and magic. And his ability to blend the analytical with the visionary makes him a sought-after mentor, speaker, and thought leader in the entrepreneurial space. Welcome, David Miller. Thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Wow, Ethan, thanks for having me. That was quite a nice introduction there. I don't know that I have much else to say.
You're welcome, mate. I try to start with some energy in the show and get the ball rolling from there. And yeah, you are a successful entrepreneur. So yeah, for those people that know who you are, just maybe introduce yourself and telling us a little bit more about you and your journey.
Yeah, just Southern kid from East Tennessee, born and raised, went to local university here in the Southeast, and moved to a big city after I graduated, managed money while I was still in school, and yeah, went into corporate America for 5 years. That quickly did not jive with my contrarian mindset, so I started a business during the financial crisis, scaled it. And one of the most interesting things I haven't shared a lot is a lot of my learnings whenever I was growing and scaling that first business was I did a lot of seed and angel investing, and I did not know what the heck I was doing whenever I first started. So I would just try and bet on the entrepreneur, and you know look into their eyes and see if they had a clear vision and confidence in that vision. And anyway, so I did that for in tandem when I was scaling my first business, sold it like you had mentioned, and went on to the cannabis space, exited there, or in the process thereof, and now I'm advising CEOs on how to grow their business.
Yeah, awesome, man. Lovely story. And I can relate to it being me from a smaller city, like a big country town, and going to a bigger city in Sydney as well in Australia here. So how the mindsets are very different, from being comfortable to going out there where it's bigger and then being different, right? From others and wanting to carve your own path. So love that story, mate. And yeah, it's really powerful when you went out there and did that. And let's talk about exiting, right? You exited PeachCap, great exit there, successful. So a lot of business owners, I always say, ideally, create your business to exit, right, from the start, whether you do or not. But exiting is a whole nother thing, right? And getting a successful exit that you're happy with in the end. I guess what are some of the lessons that you can share with everyone here today that helped you to get, to a successful exit?
Yeah, that first exit was quite emotional, as a lot of the people that have exited can relate to. And for me, one of my two greatest strengths and weaknesses are passion and loyalty. So I was intent that I was never going to sell my business. We ended up buying a dozen plus companies, spun off a couple service lines slash companies while we did that. And it wasn't until I got a business coach that he was able to help me better see my path forward and taking the next step. And that part of that was exiting the business. And so I would suggest, always being open to buying and selling your business, regardless of what stage you feel like your business is in.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And love the business coach thing as well. Like, even though we are coaches, we have coaches as well, and helped us, throughout our journey, to do that, to help us on that, yeah, whatever that journey is, right? Whether it's business growth, other areas, on doing that. So you mentioned about seed and angel investing there. You said that you didn't talk, much about, which I liked, right? And I'm an investor as well, and looking at doing this, and it's always an interesting, a lot of people just think it's Shark Tank or something like that, right? Which isn't exactly the way that it is, on how it works. So do you want to talk a little bit about maybe how you're analyzing these businesses and going, well, what do I want to get into, to see if that's going to help the overall wealth side of, what you were working towards?
Yeah, narrow that question out a little bit more, Ethan, so I can make sure I hit on it correctly.
Yeah. So with the seed and angel investing, let's talk maybe first around, like, what were you looking at? Because you could just buy any business, right? Or invest in any business there. Was there any like parameters or anything, like how would you determine that, yes, I would, go into that business?
Yeah, the main component that I had was, did I believe in the person? Were they passionate about it? And you had mentioned the method and the magic, that that logic and intuition, balancing that when it comes to business. And there's definitely an element of magic whenever you're doing angel and seed investing in those early stages. And if that passion's not there, and if they don't have that, for lack of a better word, sparkle in their eye when they're going through what it is that their company's doing and their pitch, not just is their pitch tight, and does their company seem like it has a lot of purpose. There's enough business out there for everybody. I truly believe that, especially in the small business space. But if that passion's not there, if they don't have that special it factor that's is extremely hard to describe, then I feel like you're behind the eight ball from the get-go. And I've
Yeah.
I've invested in a lot of companies where that sparkle was there, and they've just failed. And that's not to say that won't happen, but when you're looking at things from more of a higher level, if you focus on the entrepreneur and their passion, and you feel like they have, they have the capability to walk the walk that they're talking, then that's going to increase the likelihood of their success and yours as a result thereof.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I'm in an investor group, and these very successful people worth like nine figures and stuff always say that, yeah, I'm investing in people, right? I'm not investing in the deal. Yes, the deal has to make sense, of course. But getting the right people increases the chance, right, of being successful, because most businesses are not successful, right? But if you invest in one that is successful, then the returns can be very high, for that end journey. So yeah, great points on yeah, analyzing the people. And then for people that are on the other side, right? So the people that are pitching, it's like, make sure that you're fully into this, you're showing that passion, right? So that the investors are going to be like, oh, there's something about Athan, about David here. I want to give them money, right? To grow this thing as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Now let's talk about the acquisition, right? You acquired Flow Gardens. It was a thriving cannabis company. I'm looking at acquiring businesses and things like that as well. There's a lot of different ways, of structuring this. I guess for people that are looking at this, because a lot of people think, oh, I just need bucket loads of money, right? Of myself to acquire a business, but that's not necessarily the case, right? To do that. So do you want to maybe just talk a little bit about like what strategies or structures or something like that, on how you were able to get into that deal and acquire, yeah, that company?
Yeah, well, whenever I'd been working with my coach and, he, for lack of better words, beat me over the head several times saying it's time for you to exit. I actually bought the cannabis company before I exited my first company, so I did it in tandem so I wouldn't just be wandering around driving my wife at the time crazy. So I, decided what was meaningful for me, what was something I could get passionate around, and it was, one of my best friend back in my early 20s passed away of cancer, and I saw cannabis changed him. So that's why I chose that industry, and I had an introduction to this company, and how I was able to get in was being able to relate to the entrepreneur and understand and recognizing that he was, he built that vision, he built that spirit, that's in the business. And after assessing that, what value can I provide as a more experienced entrepreneur? And the gentleman that started the company was a wonderful cannabis grower, and he was wildly passionate about it, done it for 20, 30 years, but his business acumen and sense was, um, well, I guess, subpar, and he readily admitted that and admits that. So it's all about finding where can you provide value in the most impactful way, because at the end of the day, an entrepreneur doesn't see their company worth a certain dollar amount. When it comes down to where's the value in the company, it's the ethos. It's that spirit that they inserted in it, and that's hard to put a dollar figure towards.
Yeah, awesome, man. And I know
I
that
mean, does
you're
that make sense, or did I
yeah,
answer your
yeah.
question there?
Yeah. I think it's great. And like, because I know you're in the process of exiting, like you were saying, you're a board member and stuff there. So when you got in, did you acquire the whole company, or was it like, a part of it? Obviously, you were having the same the owner was probably staying on the journey for a little while as well to keep him as a transitional phase. How was that sort of structured? I'm curious on that one.
Yeah, it was interesting. So the company was in its infancy stage. It had not launched a website yet, selling direct to consumer. It had one or two wholesale customers, so basically one customer that was over 80% of their revenue. They only had a couple hundred grand in revenue, and the founder was stressed beyond all belief because the two original seed investors, um, there was no structure put in place, and the communication wasn't there, the leadership wasn't there, and he brought me on to transition the company to the next level. So that's what I did. The seed investors eventually exited, and I was able to implement systems and structure within the employees with refine his vision, clarify the core values, and then take that couple hundred grand company to, I think the run rate's around $12 million now. It clipped about 10 million last year. So we took it from 80% one wholesale customer to about 30,000 B2C customers with, over 100, wholesale direct, retail. So yeah, it's where do you find value? How do you focus on delivering that value and making sure that the people at the top are aligned? Because if they're not, then it's time to exit. And ultimately that's why I'm exiting now, is that I've done my job. The leadership at the top and the other people that we've brought on board, there's not alignment, and I'm moving on to my next stage. And um, yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks for sharing that. And I think there's a lot of great lessons there where people, they might be good at something, they don't necessarily good at business, right? And they need someone like yourself, right? Myself, or someone there that understands the business side and can really create those structures and alignment and that growth potential, right? There to go in. So being open, because you're better off having a smaller piece of something really big, right? Than a big piece of something that's worth a couple 100,000 compared to a smaller piece of something that's worth 10, 12 million, right? Per year, as an example, there. So, a lot of
Yeah,
people.
Nathan, not sorry to interject, but I realized I did not answer your question. So just to add the question is, I came in with a smaller percentage in the beginning with the option to buy more. And that was really a risk mitigation strategy, not only for me, but also them. We're kind of interviewing ourselves. So me being in the financial industry, having done angel and seed investing in the past, me going back to a small town, that's kind of intimidating, looking at the outside. Oh, there's this guy who's sold his companies in the financial industry. Is he going to come and slice and dice like a private equity firm? Is he going to come in here and try and shake things up? So um, after I proved my value and did what needed to be done, then I was able to gain a significant share of equity at an extremely attractive price.
Yeah, nice. I love that. Options, right, on how to get in and continue further in a lot of different ways. Reduces risk. And obviously you were structuring, I'm assuming, at the pre-revenue or the original price, right, that you got. So as the business scales, you get it at the original good deal. So yeah, being smart on how that's structured. So awesome, man. Love those stories. I think this is really powerful, like what you're sharing, right? Because this is really how it happens. And there's a lot of different ways of structuring deals and the value of having someone like ourselves, right, around the deal, because you know that it's not just, hey, I just got to give, hundreds of thousands of dollars to someone. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it over time. So love that, mate. Let's talk
Yeah.
now about being a scaling up coach, right? So scaling up, very, big book that's being out there. A lot of people are reading, right? And it's got a lot of great, areas in that book. And you're certified, right? And I know that they have like a 4 decision methodology. Maybe we start there, right? So people that don't know about scaling up or maybe have read or heard of the book, do you want to talk a little bit more around that? Yeah, the methodology around that to help scale businesses.
Yeah, for sure, Athan. And preface all that with saying, relative to scaling up, the founder of that is the same gentleman that founded Entrepreneurs Organization, and there's 18,000 entrepreneurs across the world. Vern Harnish, and he's just amazing. And that methodology is something that I've incorporated in to my executive international coaching for sure. All that being said, I think whenever you're a coach advising CEOs, being a one-trick pony just doesn't work, especially not in today's environment. So while I'm a subscriber and believer in scaling up, also incorporate other methodologies like EOS, Bloom, all different types out there under my umbrella, if that makes sense. So, um, but when it comes to being a scaling up coach, a lot of things when we're looking at advising companies that have a smaller, or I guess a lower threshold of revenue, maybe they haven't quite hit the million mark, or they're at a couple million, they have 8 to 10 employees. That is really one of the most pivotal times of a business. And the sad thing with that is those business owners are in the weeds, doing kitchen sink type duties, as are all their other employees, because that's just the craziness of building a small business. You got to work with what you got until you can build those systems and structure and establish yourself in the marketplace. So when you're working with those small companies, the ones that can actually see the value and understand the value of what an experienced coach can bring, then we're able to expedite their path in scaling their company by 10x. Dan Sullivan, I went and saw his group up in Toronto maybe 8, 9 months ago. They said 10x is easier than 2x. I believe that was his book, and that is 100% true. If you know what you need to do, you can cut through the BS. Not that it's not going to be hard. Most great things are, but yeah, I mean, just putting your nose to the grindstone when it comes to scaling businesses, whether it's that, 4 factor method or 4 component methodology, people, strategy, execution, and cash, like scaling up has, whether it's the infamous L10 model that EOS has, or any of the other tools that you use in it. It's all about the entrepreneur and them committing to scaling their company and growing it, being able to lean on people with experience. And I didn't have the, I guess the fortune to have a coach my first, 10 or so years in building a business. I did have, a forum of CEOs I met with, and we would have like a running joke. The only thing we could do was laugh about it was, how many $10,000 mistakes did you make this month? Because we'd meet on a monthly basis. And, those $10,000 mistakes were mistakes that were almost essential because we didn't have someone, coaching us along the way, so we could, learn from others' mistakes and avoid it. We almost like we had to go through it. It's like, oh, that's why you don't do that. I'm going to make $10,000 less this month because of that decision.
Yeah, awesome, man. I love it. And I like that you're doing different areas. Like it's not just the scaling up at the OS system, Bloom and everything like that you're saying. Because I'm in a similar way, right? There's a lot of value out there, and it's like it's the structure, right, and the planning of how it's like this is how we need to build the business to create like a machine, right? And then it's then how we're scaling it and removing ourselves. And I think that's the biggest challenge, right, for a business owner that I see is that no one thinks it can be done as good as me, and removing themselves from the process, like you said, getting stuck in the weeds and everything like that, which does that. Bless you. And so with getting them out, like what do you tell people when you're working with them on going, hey, let's change the way you're in this business and I guess remove you and get other people's involved. Sort of how do you instruct them in that method?
Well, one of the hardest things for me when I started as a coach is, I can only run as fast as the CEO or the founder wants to. If I can see the light at the end of the tunnel and know they're right there, if they're not ready from a, mental and emotional capacity to do so, then being a coach, you got to slow down, and you gotta have a lot of patience in a lot of different situations. But how do you approach that is what I found to be, um, one of the most effective ways is I have a truth versus tact matrix. Excuse me, truth versus tact matrix that I use, and it's really, comes down to delivering messages with that entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs, they've built their business, they've rolled their sleeves up, they're willing to work, but how they go about solving problems, it's usually there's a an equitable balance there. So how do you help them? How do you deliver a message to them so it's not too direct, coming across as, rude, adding insult to injury, versus the total end of the spectrum, placation, and that's, how do delivering an overly soft message to where, it's, yeah, you're likable, you're that nice person, but that's just way too tactful. And a lot of times, if you're on either end of the spectrum, you're going to piss them off if you're too direct, and if you're too soft, you're going to become laughable, and you're going to be seen as you can easily be seen, excuse me, as delivering coded messages that that it just don't make sense. So finding that balance, not only in delivering messages to the CEO so they can actually learn themselves and come to the conclusion of what needs to be done themselves without you telling them. Then after they kind of that assimilates with them and they understand that, then how do they deliver that to their people? So their COO or their number two or, their number three, four, their leadership team, is able to become empowered and make those decisions. So they don't. So the founder, the CEO doesn't have to make them. Does that make sense, Ethan?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think
And
that's
if you don't mind me pivoting, like you've done a good bit of this as well. What have you experienced as far as being able to accomplish those types of things?
yeah, it's always an interesting part, right? Working with people because I'm sure you'll agree that you could teach the same thing to 10 people, you get 10 different results, right? Because of exactly what you've been talking about. Because of their mindset, different things that are holding them back, because of how much they implement, right, which we don't necessarily control, and the business model, all these other various factors. So I think and I like the bit that you said where it's like we're not trying to be the friend, as the coach. It's like, you've got to be stern and saying this is how it is. And it's sometimes it's putting the mirror up to the client and saying, hey, this is what you're doing. Because a lot of people, they don't know that they have these programs, right? That this, or what they're saying, what they're doing, and us being external, we can see that either them how they're operating or how the business is operating, and go, this is what's going on. We need to change this in you, or how the business is. So that's what I find is a big thing. When I work with people, so it's almost like just cracking the code. What's going to be the thing that cuts through to go, yeah, some people it's easy, it happens straight away. Other people, we've got to navigate. And I think that probably links into, what you talk about, your fusion, right? Of the method, the intuition, the profit, the purpose, logic, and magic, right? Which I like those different elements. And that it's that intuition piece, right? There where you need to be on point and guide yourself, whether as the business coach like ourselves, or even as the business owner, to make those decisions, but also have those other elements. So you want to talk a little bit more about, I guess, that fusion there, and how it's important on how we run a business as well.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks for sharing that, Ethan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. So I think intuition's an interesting one. Let's just dive a little bit into that, because a lot of people, that's generalized here, but a lot of people think, oh, women just naturally have intuition and stuff like that, maybe, or, men are a bit more logical, if we just say it, left brain, right brain type of thing. I'm quite in touch with my intuition, right? And I think in the coaching sessions, you have to be, right, because you can go in with a plan of doing something, or even if you're a business owner with your team, right? You can go in with a plan to a meeting, whether it's an L10 meeting or whatever, but then something happens, or you hear something, or something comes to your mind, and you're like, wait a minute, this is actually what needs to happen here, right? Not the plan, because that's going to make the biggest difference in the short term as well as the long term, right? I want to hear, yeah, your views on intuition, and how, yeah, to hear that, or incorporate that, or enhance that, I guess, yeah, in what we do.
Yeah, I think that applied in what type of situation
Yeah, in
are you
business.
saying here?
Yeah, in business.
Well, if it's with buying a company, then that's whenever I'm approaching buying a company, it's what's the best word I can say here? Is is there a bullshit factor that you're sensing? And I know that is a pretty direct statement, but peeling the onion back a little bit more, if you feel like that BS factor is there, why is it there? And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Is it because they're insecure because they don't think their business is at your level? Do they think that is there a sense of bravado going on there where they need to puff out their chest? So really just being able to assess the person and really feel what kind of energy they're giving off um, is is kind of just like a level one-on-one method of how I approach it.
Yeah, I love that, mate. I like the direct bullshit meter version of it as well. That comment, so true, right? You're hearing someone going, I don't know about this person, right? You got that gut, that intuitive feeling, right? With some people in whatever context, but yeah, definitely when you're buying a business, or even when you're hiring, right? It's similar thing.
Yep.
So, because if you get one bad hire, like I'm sure, do you ever work with clients and go, look at who's in the team or something like that, and going, this person needs to go, or something like that, and share with them about what's going on with that dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, telling them directly that somebody needs to go, that can definitely backfire on you. Um, but like what's one of the stats that I usually share, I may be off here a little bit, and it depends on what database and source you're looking at, but they say that if you have a bad employee, that can on average cost you 7 times what their salary is. Assuming they're being fairly compensated for the title and the role that they're in. So if you got somebody who's a $30,000 a year employee, that's costing your business over 200 grand. Now, whether that's in lost revenue, whether that's in sucking time from A players in your company, whether that's um, just not allowing the team to move forward because of problems that they're creating. There's a lot of different factors there, but I mean, even if it's not seven times their salary, what if it's just two or three? That's still 50-ish grand that it's costing your company by not only employing them, but at some point in time, they're going to leave or they're going to get fired. So now you got to hire and train someone else and go through that whole process to implement the same thing you thought you had with that person. So yeah, having that intuition when it comes, like you said, when it comes to hiring people, that's huge. And I've found the best way to do that is just map the questions that you have with your company's core values and how that applies to them. And at the end of the day, if they have core values that don't align with your company, then it doesn't matter how good of a worker is. There's going to be a great place for them to work, but it's not going to be your company. So if you can ask those questions about the core values in a way where it's just not blatantly obvious and allows them to kind of lower their guard and be honest, then you're really doing them and yourself a service, figuring out whether it's a match or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I love that part. There, it's. I agree. It's the attitude. It's the value alignment, right? That's the most important thing because the skill can be taught, right? In the end, but that those are more fixed in someone. And if they're going to be doing something else, then yeah. What is it called? Hire slow, fire fast. A lot of people say, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like that's whenever I sold my company, actually, I sold it internally to my employees. And the gentleman that who's the CEO now, he was my very first hire. He was an intern at the local university there in Atlanta, and so I groomed him from the beginning, and that was I don't want to say a match made in heaven. We definitely operated way differently, and there were definitely problems along the way, but they were, when you're able to get on the same page with somebody and they're the right person for the job, then it just solves so many problems.
Yeah, awesome, man. I love that. And I like that you opened up the possibility that, hey, you can actually sell your business to people that are already there, right? What a way to pass on the legacy. You don't have to go externally, right? To do that in the business and or even giving someone skin in the game, right? Like let's say if you ever see this where people are stepping back, right? And they go, hey, we've got a CEO, a general manager, or someone like that involved. Hey, get them to buy in or give them equity or something like that so they have skin in the game. So then that allows them to, you know, make sure that the business is going to be going in a trajectory that's going like that on how that legacy, transfer happens. So what are your thoughts around on that side as well?
As far as like transferring and legacy goes.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a that my car, let's just say, was in a wreck, and I wasn't involved in it, so I had it fixed. I do have a point to this, Ethan, by the way. So it was at the shop, and it was at this shop, and it's a Tesla, and there's only one Tesla dealership in this relatively small town, so that's where I took it, and the communication throughout the process wasn't there or I'm sorry, it was poor and broken communication. You could tell the employees were trying, but it wasn't being communicated. So I just I love analyzing business, and I knew it was a small business, and they were successful and they cared about their customers. So I just kind of let things play out. My car was wrecked in late December, and I got it back today actually. And so today's what, early March. And after a promise it was going to be ready, going to be ready. Oh, this problem came up, this problem, and I just went down afterwards, and I sat down and talked to the owner, and said, "Hey, like this isn't normal, with the business. I don't know if this is happening to all your other customers, and I'm not here to bitch, but like there are some processes that are broken here." And he was more than grateful, and I may actually end up buying part of the company. I don't know. Kind of. There's a lot of moving parts there still, but um, yeah, I kind of went down a rabbit hole. What was the genesis of that question? I'll get us back on track.
It's a good question. I think what you shared, it was just a great lesson around understanding that there's processes, right, behind things and the experience, right? The customer experience is so important, right? Because that can make or break a business. And waiting 2.5 months roughly to get your car back is crazy. But then look what happens. I think this is a great story about your opportunity. You go, how do I add value to this business, right? Let me tell the owner about what it is. And all of a sudden he goes, wow, David's a great guy. Let's talk more. And as you start to talk more, go, maybe there's an opportunity here that you've created, to get a piece of this business, right? You know, all because you added value and you weren't there to complain, you were there to help. And
Yeah.
I think that really goes back to the story of, you talked about befriending the entrepreneurs, you know what I mean? That they believe in you. There's a connection there, and you've created something. So no matter what I asked, I think that's a very powerful lesson, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's my shiny object mind that I try and be self-aware of, but that did not work. I got sidetracked. So I'm glad you got some value out of it.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm extracting the gold, right? There's always gold in there. You just got to be aware enough of how to fish it out, right? In people, and I think that's a skill for everyone, right? Is listen to the deeper things, and that's why I'm coming back and sharing what Dave was talking about here, so you understand that Dave is very switched on to the things he's doing in the background, right here, that allowed him to create these opportunities because he's looking at things differently, right? Not just from one angle of going, I want my car fixed. It's like, no, let's do it a different way and go from there. So love it, man. You've shared a lot of value, yeah, with us today here, and so many different realizations, which I've loved. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up here today, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
I think one of the best experiences that I've had as a business owner is surrounding yourself with, call it, 5 people that you feel like are intuitively on your level in the direction that you're going or want to go, even if you're not there, in business. And, rising tide lifts all boats. If you got a group that's in sync, on the same page, wanting to grow and growing together, you guys are going to rise together, and you guys are going to and girls are going to bring each other up. And the power of having that meeting of the minds with fellow entrepreneurs is something that has expedited my entrepreneurial journey, and still continues to do so. So
Yeah.
find your people, and lock in that trust, and continually, meet with them, and keep strengthening those relationships.
Yeah, love it, mate. Great point. 1/5 of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Let's craft that right to the people that we want to do it, that are striving for more, and yeah, you just keep moving up and on that journey, man. So yeah, you've we connected through our networks. All this about your awesome journey from starting, exiting businesses, investing as well. Now being a growth alchemist, you're an awesome guy, mate. So knowledgeable, taking businesses from very small to very big, and how you're structuring and building relationships, analyzing people, all this type of stuff, to have a lot of great deals and helping others right along that journey as well, which is very powerful. And I'm sure you help continue to help business leaders unlock both the method and the magic of sustainable growth, as you call it. So very grateful that we connected, mate. Look forward to working with you. So David, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Um, easiest way is just well, actually, LinkedIn's hard because there's about 1 million David Millers in the world. If they just go to alchemyofscale.com, or davidmiller.buzz on Instagram, that's the easiest way to connect with me. And whether you just have a question, Whether you think I'm full of it and you want to try and call me out on something, all questions are welcome from from any angle, you know. So yeah, reach out if you just got a question or if you want to do business too. That's great.
Yeah, awesome, guys. We'll definitely check out David there. We will put it in the show notes so you can find him on LinkedIn. So let's put it on LinkedIn, on Instagram, his website. So knowledgeable what he's achieved and is continuing to achieve. And got any questions, reach out, right? That's what it's all about. We're here to serve, and help people where we can, and get along that journey of growth and success together. So it's been a pleasure interviewing you today, mate, and thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Yeah, I look forward to connecting hopefully in Australia here one day shortly.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athan Casiotis, or visit my website, athancasiotis.com. If you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.